Welcome to the 4 novelties from Märklin Trix and LGB. It is a small but nice program representing multiple eras, and it has something to offer for all model railroad fans. We'll start with the C-Gleis gauge and an extraordinary steam engine. This takes us back to Era 1, when traveling was a very special experience, in style. And there it is, this elegant beauty on the rails. It has been issued with a matching train for a special occasion.
Dieses Jahr gibt es zur 16-Mitgliederversammlung die bayerische S36.
For the 16th members meeting this year we have a Bavarian S36 in a beautiful blue-green paint scheme, which will be accompanied by a matching car set consisting of 4 passenger cars that we have commissioned for the dealers in the Märklin Dealer Initiative. The model perfectly reproduces the high-axis magnificent machine. This includes the open bar frame and the delicate chassis. A smoke kit is included as standard equipment. It also works in conventional operation. A controlled high-efficiency drive with flywheel mass sits in the boiler. Digitally switchable functions include numerous sound and light functions, including cab lighting and a train meeting light that can be activated separately. Thanks to the MFX decoder, various operating states of the engine can be recreated. The S36 is delivered with a presentation base including track. A set of 4 express train cars makes this beautiful train. The fictional set in green-blue paint scheme is also set in Era 1. The cars are ready for the interior lighting to be installed. They have wrought buffers and spoked wheels and are equipped with replicas of the gas lighting. The baggage car has movable sliding doors. A wonderful train that should delight collectors and friends of special steam locomotives and beautifully shaped cars. Now we've come to the early Era 3 of the Deutsche Bundesbahn and to a variant of the Class 78 that has not yet been in the Märklin and Trix assortment. This locomotive, which was used in German urban areas for decades, changed its appearance several times in the course of its long service life. The C-Gleis model of the 78054 reproduces its prototype on the one hand with a barrel roof from the early production period and on the other hand with a new boiler, which corresponds to the operating condition around 1956.
Die Lokomotive hat zum Beispiel ein entsprechendes Tonnendach erhalten.
The locomotive has received an appropriate barrel roof. Above the driver's cab entrance door, the gutter has been dropped. We have also redone the smokebox door. The locomotive has a 2-light tip signal, which means that there is no longer any lighting above the smokebox. There is also no central lock anymore, but the locomotive license plate is in the middle. The buffer height was lowered according to the standards of European model railroads. So we have done a few things to this model, such that today we have a version of this locomotive that has not yet been available from Märklin in the C-Gleis program.
Im H0-Programm auch noch nicht gegeben hat.
Many-plied metal handlebars and piping as well as indicated rows of rivets on the water boxes are among the details. A matching smoke kit can be retrofitted. The couplers conform to the new flat design. Märklin is releasing a 4-car compartment car set to go with the locomotive that also reflects the operating condition around 1956. Just like the 78, the passenger cars were also based in Hanover. The models have a movable and spring-loaded center axle for better cornering. Freight trains actually belong on every model railroad layout. In the days of the Deutsche Bundesbahn, many classes were used not only to haul passenger cars, but also heavy loads of freight. One of them was the 221, one of the most famous diesel locomotives ever. Now it appears at Märklin in the once not very popular ocean blue ivory color scheme. But today, this color scheme is very much in vogue again.
Ich glaube, damals Mitte der 70er und Anfang der 80er Jahre, da war das sicherlich eine Farbgebung, die nicht ganz so toll angekommen ist.
I think back then in the mid-70s, early 80s, it was certainly a color scheme that didn't go down so well. But when we see the locomotives today and also the models for them, I think that this color scheme already has returned to a bit of cult status. It was only in use for a short time on the Deutsche Bundesbahn. And when you look at the locomotives today, they actually look very interesting. The engine is presented in operating conditions circa 1984, era 4. All 4 axles are driven by cardan shafts. A controlled high-efficiency drive is centrally installed. The H0 model has an MFX Plus decoder on board and promises many interesting actions in freight service thanks to the new telex coupler that can be switched front and rear. Other features include the shunting double A-light function and digitally activatable cab and engine room lighting. There is an X-Works locomotive engineer figure in driver's cab 1. This colorful car set consists of a total of 5 models, all loaded with containers. It goes excellently with the 221. The 2-axle boxcars have reproduced heavy-duty buffered planks and inserted handles. The 4-axle car has a prototypical open-work metal floor. DC operators can obtain appropriate exchange wheel sets from their specialist dealer. The 221 was a superstar on the rails in eras 3 and 4, but in era 6, the Vectron has started dominating the scene. So it's no wonder that another model of the DB Vectron may roll right into the assortment at Märklin and Trix.
Für Siemens das Erfolgsprodukt. Es kam letzte Woche die Meldung, dass der 1500. Vectron
the most successful product for Siemens. Last week, the 1500th Vectron was sold. The operators seem to be satisfied with the locomotive because people keep buying it. You see them at the big government-run railroads like Deutsche Bahn AG, but also many private ones use the Vectron for their freight transport within Europe. As befits a freight locomotive, the H0 Vectron weighs heavily on the track thanks to its die-cast zinc chassis and superstructure. Together with the controlled high-performance drive, 4 driven axles and traction tires, the miniature Vectron should be able to handle even long-model freight trains. In order for it to be able to travel across borders, it is equipped with the shunting light for the Netherlands and Switzerland as well as the wrong-way signal for Italy and Switzerland. These lights can each be switched separately digitally. Every model railroader is sure to have freight cars to go with the Vectron in his or her collection because there are numerous vehicles in the Märklin assortment. However, another new freight car has appeared to go with the Vectron. It is a vehicle from the suite of 19.9-meter cars in operating condition as of 2010 that can be used for many loads. Fine movable stakes, aluminum sidewalls and a metal insert that provides good running characteristics distinguish the car. A variant with a different car number will be released by Trix. Fitting for Era 4, a GBKL type boxcar will roll into the assortment as a not-mended type private car. A car that should be a good fit for mixed freight trains of that era. Finally, two early Era 3 milk cars appear, operating condition in the late 1940s. The two Bavarian-built cars are from the first delivery from 1908 and still have DR lettering. Grove-type fans have been reproduced on the flat roofs. There is an attached stairway at one end of each car. For friends of the Swiss Railroad, there will be a res stake car loaded with a gravel replica. To match this, a variant of the popular Robel will be released, whose loading crane can be controlled digitally. The model reflects the operating condition as of 2019 and has the colors of the track construction company Zersa AG. Many model railroaders have been waiting for this. Now it is officially announced. There will be a slim double slip switch for the C-track. Its length measures 236.1 mm and the crossing angle is 12.1 degrees. A manual switch lever and an electric drive are factory installed. A turnout lantern and digital decoder can be retrofitted. Two suitable roadbed fill-in pieces are included. Only 4 straight 70.8 mm tracks need to be added.
Now
I can finally recreate such track patterns. Even now, slim double slip switches are installed and used in the prototype because they save space. This is even more important in the model. The slim double slip switch will also be released for the Trix C track. An absolutely worthy tribute to an extraordinary locomotive appears in the 1 gauge, scale 1/32. The locomotive in question is the Class 151, a locomotive that was the backbone of heavy freight train traction for the Deutsche Bundesbahn for decades. A total of 140 units were put into service. Initially, the 5,000 kilowatt powerhouses were delivered in a chrome oxide green basic paint scheme. Later, they were also painted in ocean blue ivory before traffic red became the dominant color. Above all, the ever-changing designation of the German freight railroad resulted in many variations. Some of them are now masterfully reproduced in 1 gauge. The first one is 151-034 in operating condition around 1975-76. The model has a current buffer. It can be operated with AC as well as DC and understands Märklin Digital and DCC. The controlled high-efficiency propulsion acts on all axles. The cab doors can be opened. A locomotive engineer figure sits at one end. The highly detailed new design is made of die-cast zinc and attached brass centrifugal castings. In digital operation, the pantographs can be raised and lowered by a motorized function and the telex couplers can be switched. Screw couplers are included for self-assembly. In addition, however, 2 variations of private railroads are also being added to the range. Locomotion and Hector Rail are the names of the railroad companies concerned. DB AG had taken many machines out of service and sold them on. After appropriate examination, they were put back on the track and are now bravely doing their job.
Da fällt mir dazu ein, dass es die Nachfolgerlokomotive, die Nachfolgeentwicklung von der 150 war. Da fällt mir dazu ein, dass sie nicht nur Güterzuglokomotive war.
What comes to my mind about this engine? It was the successor to the 150 and not only served as a freight engine, but was also used in the prototype as a replacement for passenger trains. Its continuous output is almost 6,000 kilowatts. It is 19.5 meters long, and we will be producing 7 versions of this engine in the model as a way of keeping our promise to offer our customers a replacement locomotive after the cancellation of the 187 and 147. We also have 2 innovations here for Märklin 1 gauge. For the first time, a high beam circuit on a version of this locomotive and also 3 different driving console lighting. We are making 3 different driving consoles that will be illuminated. That is also a first for us. While we can still wait a bit for the Class 151, a variation of the legendary CE681 has rolled into the 1-gauge assortment as an immediately available model. Weighing over 6 kilos, this Swiss rail giant is finely detailed and equipped with everything that makes up a special 1:32 scale model today. From the King's class, we quickly switch to the nominal size Z or Z. Here mainly diesel locomotives are added to the program, such as the Class 212 in Era 4 design. On board, the small engine works a Bell armature motor. The lighting is provided by warm white or red LEDs. As another highlight in Z appears a very large diesel engine. It is 23.5 meters long and has two 1,900 horsepower diesel engines on board. Yes, it has been a milestone in mechanical engineering. The V320-001 is a vehicle for the Weber Track Construction Company. The model with a bell-shaped armature motor, metal running gear, engine room replica and interior lighting has two powered bogies and is part of a train set. Also included are two Type Res low-side cars and two Type FCS rotary dump cars. Friends of Minitrix will also receive newly constructed models as a part of the fall novelties.
Als Clubmodell kommt ja demnächst die V200.
As a club model, the V200 with the two light headlights will be delivered soon, and now with the fall novelties, the Era 4 railroaders are being considered. For the Deutsche Bundesbahn, the locomotive had undergone a few changes in Era 4, and we have implemented these design changes. On the one hand, this concerns the openings at the front for the engine cooling, and on the other hand, the smaller side windows, which have been reproduced as hinged windows and no longer as windows that completely open. And there have been changes to the middle roof area compared to the Era 3 version.
Der, sage ich mal, Epoche 3 Ausführung.
The Era 4 model can be used in front of both passenger and freight trains. The chassis and body are made of die-cast metal. The equipment includes a digital decoder for MFX and DCC, including a sound generator, a motor with flywheel, traction tires, switchable cab lighting and several sound functions. All 4 axles are powered. There will be a City D train to go with the V200. The 4 separately available express train cars reproduce the DC Hohenloher-Land Nuremberg-Heilbronn-Mannheim in operating condition from 1973. All of the cars are prepared for installation of interior lighting. Another passenger train is hauled by Class 143, whose roots lie with the Deutsche Reichsbahn of the GDR. It came to the West in large numbers after reunification and is still in service today, also with private railroads. Its range of duties includes both freight and passenger trains. The body and girders of the N model from Era 5 are made of die-cast zinc. The inner values correspond to those of the V200 model. The 143 is also capable of digitally reproducing numerous operating and ambient sounds. There is a passenger train to go with the 143, formed from the classic silver coins. All of the cars have a close coupler mechanism and interior lighting can be installed as well. The push-pull train can be assembled from a 3-part set, which also includes a cab car with a so-called Karlsruhe head. It is called this because the silver coins were converted to this control head at the Karlsruhe repair plant at that time. Just as the Wittenberg cab control car was later created in Wittenberg with a different distinctive head shape. But the Karlsruhe head is the most distinctive control trailer of all. And here we have a special version, the early Era 5 one with the DBAG logo. Now to another new design that is expected to be available in the second quarter of 2023. The prototype is a highly interesting engine, the Class 248. It is a member of the Vectron family. Dual mode is the motto here, because the prototype can also travel independent of overhead wires thanks to its diesel engine. It is used by Rail Systems RP. As always, LGB fans have an array of choices, as there are highly interesting prototype vehicles in the Zittau Mountains as well as in the canton of Grisons, which would be great to see on one's own layout. Let's start with the Swiss. There, a special event is casting its shadow ahead. A world record attempt is planned for the 29th of October 2022. Fittingly, there is a particularly handsomely designed machine to mark the occasion, which has met with great approval from the prototype. It is GE 443644. Like its prototype, the model carries an advertising banner on its sides showing motifs of the Albula line and an endless line of cars, formed by the RHB's Capricorn-powered railcar trains. Two powerful motors and a propulsion system acting on all wheel sets ensure smooth operation of the engine.
The
reaction is very positive, as is actually the case with everything the Russian Railway does. The model has been very well received. It is hard to believe the draw that the originals of the Russian Railway have on the model railroad enthusiast. Since the design of the 644 has been so successful, Märklin is issuing a model of the Class 185 in a fictitious design with a strictly limited edition of 1,999 units. Allegra, welcome to the world record attempt of the Russian Railway, with 25 Capricorn trains on the UNESCO World Heritage route of the RHB. The basis is the already familiar metal vehicle from the Half-O range. Another Grisons cult locomotive is now in the works, the GE 441 in the current version, as it is still busy at the RHB. Before we move on to the Zittau models, here's some more quick news from Grisons. The Albula Museum in Bergün celebrated its 10th anniversary. A visit there is always worthwhile, as there is much to discover. Unfortunately, the weather didn't want to cooperate, but nature was happy about the abundant rain in the Grisons Mountains. And inside it was dry, so the numerous visitors could enjoy the beautiful LGB layouts as well as the future of the museum. On the one hand, the story is told of how the Russian Railway came into being, how it went through good times and hard times. On the other hand, there is something for young and old to experience. Every time you come, you see something new. We also take great pleasure in the fact that investments continue to be made here. That's important for a museum. And I think everyone can look forward to what else the Railway Museum will show in the future. It's a long-cherished wish of the RHB, but also of Märklin LGB, to build the greatest garden railroad layout in front of the Albula Museum. The project is still only on paper, but it will be a great layout in 1:22.5 scale, with motifs of the Albula and the Bernina line, and of course with the Landwasser viaduct. In order to strengthen the ties between the Märklin Company and the Albula Museum, a partnership has been established between the two, which is also supported wholeheartedly by the management in Göppingen. Another steam locomotive appears as a reference to the lovingly maintained fleet of the Zittau narrow gauge railroad. It is a model of a Saxon 4K as a museum engine of the Saxon Upper Lusatian Railroad Company. Extensive light and sound functions as well as running sounds audible even in analog operation distinguish this LGB model. The built-in smoke generator provides wheel-synchronous steam output. Two powerful Bühler motors with ball bearings are at work inside. Matching cars, completely newly constructed, will also be issued. In both cases, the prototype is a rebuilt car of the Royal Saxon State Railways, as used today as museum cars on the Zittau narrow gauge railroad. On the one hand, there is an OOW open freight car, and on the other hand, a GGW boxcar. Each model comes with the components for a Heberlein brake, so that it can be added to the prototype. That was the 2022 Fall Novelties. A colorful bouquet of models across the eras of railroad history. Surely there is a new favorite for everyone. Please note that the vehicles shown are hand samples.